hope this video finds you doing well today. This is going to be the first of a series of videos in which we take a little bit of time to talk about the organ, how this instrument works, how it produces tone, and some of the different considerations that we as organists have to consider when working with it, and what tools that we have with it to work with. This first video, we're going to be talking about and focusing on the different ways that the organ produces sound, how that aspect of the mechanism works, and to do that, we're going to be doing a little bit of a comparison against a piano. The reason for this is typically, most of the times, if someone finds out that you play organ, one of the first comments you have or questions is, well, is that like playing the piano? And I think it's a good place for us to start with because it allows us to take something I think most of us are fairly familiar with in the piano and use that to be able to contrast to better understand something that may be a little less familiar in the form of an organ. So let's first of all start off with the similarities between the two different instruments. The biggest and most notable is that both instruments are keyboard instruments. As we can see here with the organ, we have two sets of keyboards on this particular instrument, while with a piano, we normally have a single keyboard. So we have that similarity that they're both keyboard instruments, and a lot of times people who play the piano and play the organ start off their career with piano, though not always. You do sometimes have people who start directly with the organ. But there is a lot of overlap as far as basic fingering, basic kind of technique. A lot of that fingering kind of changes a little bit with organ, but it is a very good jumping off point that a lot of people who play this instrument start with. So we have that similarity in the keyboard, in the shape and design of the keyboard. A C on an organ keyboard is the same as a C on a piano keyboard. So we do have that similarity and familiarity with that aspect. From this point, the two instruments do diverge quite a bit. The biggest aspect being in how the instruments produce sound and the kind of sounds that they do produce. And this kind of puts piano and organ actually in two very different families. So the first thing to consider as far as the way an organ produces sound is that it's basically a wind-blown pipe. Organs actually fit into the family of wind instruments and actually have more in common with something like a clarinet or a flute necessarily than with a piano as far as how it produces its tone. Now, what you have in a pipe organ is you will have a series, several different sets of pipes, and every set of pipes that we have, we refer to those as a rank of pipes. So you have all these different ranks of pipes, sets of pipes, that are sitting on a wind chest. And they basically are constantly under air pressure. When we press down the key on the organ, it basically opens a valve under the pipe that we are playing the key that it corresponds to and allows the air to come into the pipe, and by passing through it, it produces the pitch and the tone that we have. So, to contrast this with the piano, with an organ, the amount, how hard we articulate the note is completely irrelevant to the tone. I can just barely touch it, and we get that much volume, or I can really hit it. It does not change the volume whatsoever, because at the end of the day, the valve's either open or closed. You're not changing the air pressure depending on how hard you hit the note. So again, it's either open or closed. There's no in between. The other thing that we have with an organ is that once the valve's open, the air will pass through either until the organ is turned off or until which point the performer releases the key. So if I depress the key, it can go on as long as I have this key held. It doesn't diminish like a piano would. But again, when I take my finger off the key, the valve shuts immediately and the sound is immediately canceled out and stops, with the exception of whatever the acoustic of the room would allow. Now, to provide a little bit of clarification, given that this is being filmed in the middle of the COVID situation, I'm actually doing this in my home on a digital instrument by Rogers. So in this particular instance, there is no actual physical pipes involved. It's all digital sounds that are created with a process called sampling, where they actually record physical pipes and then use that to extrapolate the sound over it. However, we can still use this as a tool to be able to talk about how these things work in a real pipe organ. And throughout some of this video, you'll be seeing some different pictures of our actual instrument at First Methodist Church in Victoria, which is a tracker action Viscerolan instrument consisting of about 32 ranks of pipe. Well, a lot of that has to do with the fact that these different sets of pipes, these different ranks of pipe, there are different ranks, different collections of pipes associated with each keyboard. To start with, let's talk a little bit about what we mean when we say a rank of pipe. I'm talking about a set of pipes, but what you see with that rank of pipes is one rank of pipe is basically means, generally speaking, there are some exceptions to this, but generally speaking, that means for every key here on the keyboard, there is going to be one pipe, at least one pipe that corresponds with that for that set, for it to produce a pitch. Again, each key, we have to have a separate pipe for when we press the key, it opens the valve under that pipe. And the different pipes allow for the different pitches. Now, we have multiple different sets of pipes associated with each keyboard, multiple ranks of pipes, each one with the different pitches to be able to produce all the pitches we have that we control with the keyboard, but then they also have different colors and qualities to them that allow us to mix these things together. So by having multiple keyboards, since we have multiple different ranks of pipes assigned to each keyboard, we can blend sounds between the different keyboards and through the pedal and be able to really almost similar to like an orchestrator picking out the different symphonic instruments to blend together to produce an arrangement of music. We're able to do that in real time with the organ and the music we have. So let me give you a couple demonstrations of what we can have with that. So one thing we can potentially have is we can have keeping our hands simply on one keyboard. Where we're all using very similar, the same collection of pipes for every note that we're playing. We're also able to add in the pedal, which has different sets of pipes. So usually, in some cases, we'll be using a lot of the lower voices that are more assigned to the pedal. So this can allow us to kind of fill up the texture a little bit more. But we also have the ability to move between the different keyboards and having different sounds on each. So in this particular example, I have kind of a brighter, louder sound on this bottom keyboard, which in this particular instrument is called the grate. And then we have a little bit of a lighter sound with a little bit of color to it on the top keyboard, which in this case is called the swell, to kind of add some contrast. So by mixing these two together, we're able to have some neat effects as far as moving between, almost like two different parts of the orchestra trading each off with each other in a piece of music. So it almost serves as a little bit of a dialogue. And by having multiple keyboards, we're able to make those transitions quickly and effectively to be able to blend the music together in that way. This also allows us the possibility of being able to do solo out voices with one hand and have a different, more accompaniment style of registration under with the other hand. So for example, we have this nice, we can do this very nice melody with a solo voice. So this gives us another tool to be able to paint with, to be able to shape the color of the music. We also have, now we're talking about some solo voices there. In that case, I was carrying a solo voice in my right hand up here on the swell keyboard. There's nothing to say that the pedal has to do all bass work. It can be the solo voice too. And that also gives us some options as far as, depending on the music and how it's written, we can move the voice around to where it's most appropriate. For example, if we have a lot of really fast moving passages in the hand, it might be easier to cover, it might make more sense for the melody to be sitting in the pedal. So we're able to carry melodies in the pedal while the hands do some flashy, kind of fireworks type thing. So we can so this gives us all kinds of different options. It gives composers all kinds of different options with this instrument to be able to create all kinds of music that can almost be symphonic in a nature, by allowing us to combine the different voices together, to bring together something rather unique. So that covers what we will be discussing, and to discuss today's topic, we will be exploring some more aspects like the different stops. How do we turn on and off the different voices? How does pitch work on the organ, as well as some of the different tone families of the different pipes here in the next few weeks as we start doing additional videos. I hope you all enjoy this, and I hope you all tune in later for some of these other videos. Again, thank you very much for your time and your attention in this matter, and I hope you have a good day, and God's blessings be with you.